What's up, everyone? Now for my next comedy story. So, I used to work on the road, laying tile for Walmart. Been to 47 states, been all over, and we always had to do seems like extreme stuff to get to the jobs and to get the jobs done and to travel from job to job. It was always just something pretty wild. So, I was up in New York doing a job one time. I think it was New Hampshire, actually. Beautiful. New Hampshire is beautiful. They have the best state motto of all the states: live free or die. So you gotta love that motto. That's my solid favorite of all the states' mottos. So, anyways, we were up there working, did a store, and came back, and all the guys were from Central Missouri, and they'd never been to New York, so they wanted to go to New York City and see what New York City was like. And we were like, I was like, all right, here we go. And to understand the situation we were in, I was driving a 3/4 ton, 4-wheel drive Ford F-250 diesel. Pretty big truck. It was a pretty nice truck at the time, and we had a machine to tear up tile in the back of it. And this machine, you got to understand, is 3,000 pounds, 3,000 to 4,000 pounds just by itself. I think this one was electric, so it was a little bit heavier. They have propane ones, diesel ones, and electric ones. The electric ones are heavier because of the battery. So this thing was really heavy, and we had tile that we had to take to another job. So we had it loaded down with tile. Tile weighs a pound per piece, and we could figure out how much we had. I think we had 2,000 feet of tile in there, so that put us about 5,000 or 6,000 pounds. And after that, we had all of our tools, equipment to do the work, and then we had all of our bags, and then all the people. And there were 5 of us all together. There was 4 of us and a guy had his girlfriend with us, and we all decided to go down Times Square in this truck looking like Jed Clampett. I mean, I'm not even kidding. If you guys look up the Beverly Hillbillies, and you'll see what they look like, having everything all strapped down on the back, way above the cab and everything. Yeah, that was us. We probably would have gave them very swift competition, except for Granny. We didn't have Granny on there. But it was awesome. So here you go. You got all these guys driving down, and New York City is so used to everything. They didn't care. And we really had a pretty good time going down and seeing New York, and it was cool. So we're leaving New York, and there's like 2 ways in. There's a big bridge, and then one of them goes underwater, and there's a tunnel underwater, and there may be more than 2 there, but there's very few ways in and out of New York. It's basically an island. And so we go down, and we're going underneath the bridge, and we're coming up out of the bridge, or out of the tunnel. Sorry, what I meant to say is that we're going down underneath the tunnel, and once we come out of the tunnel, we go up, and we're starting to go up on a bridge, and there's this giant bridge. And you got to keep in mind, this is right outside of New York City, so I don't even know how many lanes. I think it's 10 lanes. It's ridiculous. It's probably more than 10. It might be more like 12. The most lanes pretty much I've ever seen in my life. Like New York and LA, those were the 2 most extreme. And so we're coming up the hill and going up on this bridge, and there's this big corner, and all of a sudden I start hearing ting. I'm like, man, that's a weird sound. So I turn down the radio. Ting. That's definitely weird. That's not right. I'm driving. Ting. I'm like, what is going on? And then I look in my rearview mirror, so I'm trying to watch what's going on. I hear ting, and then I watch one of my lug nuts go whoosh, and go shooting off, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And so I immediately pull over, and as I do, the very last lug nut snaps off and goes ting, and the center of the hub comes through like that right there, and at the end of it, there's a little curve to where it just barely hung on. And that's all that was holding on to the entire rim, because the center of the rim was hollow, basically a circle, and then the end of where the axle bolts on is barely just that little lip. It's like a 1/4-inch lip held everything on there, and that's it. So now at this point, I'm stuck on the side of the road. And when I say stuck, the way it is there's one of my mirrors overhanging the block barrier. I mean, I'm this close to the edge of the wall, and my mirror is overhanging. And if you look down over the barrier, it's about 150 feet down to concrete, solid concrete. So we're way up in the air. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And on my other mirror, it's overhanging the far right white line for traffic. And all the signs everywhere, I think they even make it laws in New York, is that the big, heaviest trucks have to stay far to the right. So here we are with the biggest big trucks coming in and out of New York, and a cliff right next to us. And my mirror is overhanging both sides. Like, it's that small of a space. It's not designed to stop here at all, but I have no choice. And so immediately I realize we're in a tight spot. And I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And so we get in the truck and we're sitting there and we're waiting. And you don't realize how much a bridge moves until you're stuck on one. Especially that big, with that big of trucks and that many cars. That whole bridge would bounce, and it felt like we were going 6 inches up and down every time you, and it's just a non-stop stream of semis. And any second that semi could just barely veer over, I mean, that far, and that's it. We don't exist anymore because there's a semi that just smoked us off the side of a cliff or barrier or whatever. I mean, it would have been bad. It would have been bad. And so we start calling around, and we're trying to get off this bridge, clearly, and the people, they say, well, you're on like a turnpike or something, and most wreckers and stuff can't come out there because you got to have a special permitted wrecker, blah 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 blah. We couldn't find him. We were on this bridge, and this was back when cell phones were just kind of starting to get popular and stuff. I mean, they were, but it wasn't like smartphones, nothing like we have now. This was a long time ago. And so we finally get a hold of a wrecker service that can come out there. And like I said, we were there for probably 2 hours. And you get this wrecker guy that comes out, and he's probably seen, 20 crashes today. He's this hardened New Yorker. Hey, I don't, hurry up, get out, or whatever. I can't do the New York accent. But he's like, didn't care. Had zero cares to give at all. Just hops out and it's like, let's go, get out of my way, I'm doing this. And so I go up to him and I'm like, hey bud, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job or anything, but I really got the back of my truck loaded down, man. I was like, I got 7,000 pounds at least back there, probably around 7,000 pounds, and that's why my truck broke down, is because my lug posts all broke off. I was like, that thing is heavy. And he's like, yeah, whatever, forget about it, or whatever, and so I'm like, okay, man, okay. And so we're all standing behind him, and he has his wrecker, it's pulled down like this, and well, yeah, okay, it's pulled down like this, and he's pulling my truck up like this, And so we're standing behind the truck back here, and I'm like, and it's on a hill a little bit, so we're standing behind this whole operation, me and the other 4 people with me, and I'm going, this is not the spot we want to be. We want to be on the front side. And everybody's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, you just watch what happens. And so we all go get on the front. I had to wait until traffic was coming and like run around. And it was really a sketchy situation. And so we're on the front watching all this happen. And the wrecker, he's pulling up my truck. He gets it up on this, and the back of the wrecker is on the ground right here, And so when my truck is way up here on it, he goes to lower it down and do that and set the bed of the wrecker down. And so when he does that, that leaves room to where there's no weight and nothing holding it down. And that's when the moment he realized how much weight my truck had in the back of it, because the front, when he went to set that, when that came up like that, his truck came up, and the front wheels of his truck came 4 foot off the ground. And it started to pop a wheelie like straight up in the air, and then it started to roll back and go, and you could see him go, oh, and he hit the lever, and that thing comes down, and it's coming down, it's going, and it gets to the bottom, and right at the end of the rope, he hits it again, it goes, and wrenches it down, and it goes, and like, he had the bottom of that back down on the ground, so it couldn't go anywhere. But I didn't know whether his line was going to snap or anything. You heard that truck grunt like unlike anything else. And he just barely kept it all together. Like at one point, he was rolling down the hill with a 4 foot wheelie, chugging down the hill backwards. I don't think he had his tires properly chocked. Like he just was not prepared at all for what I tried to explain to him. And, or maybe his Z-brake wasn't holding, his air brake wasn't holding. I guess that probably would have been it just wasn't set strong enough for everything. But either way, he wasn't ready. And, So it comes down and it grunts and it stops, and he stops it, and he's just like, whew. And I look at him and he's just ghost white. And I was like, I tried telling you, bro. And he's like, oh, all right then, all right. And so he goes and he does all the safety precautions. He chalks everything up. He takes it a lot more serious that time. He's like, well, I just got to do it real fast. And he knew it was coming. And he did. He had it right. And I mean, when he had to set it down like that, the front of the truck came up, and then he just, boom, set it back down and brought it back down. But he knew it was going to happen that time. But, yeah, from there, this adventure's far from over. From there was a concrete wall. And you got to understand, so before, my mirror was overhanging this concrete wall with a 150-foot drop below. And now my truck was up onto the wrecker, so it's way up high in the air, and my truck is way above our heads, you know. And the guy, he only had so many seats in his wrecker, and he's like, all right, some people got to ride in the back of ride in the truck, which it was going to be really sketchy because there was just one tire holding on, and in theory, that truck, if that tire just would have came off, the centerpiece, it's going to fall off and possibly fall off the wrecker, or it could just fall down on the rim, but you don't know. It was sketchy. And so I obviously was like, I have to do this. I got us into this mess. I'll go up in there. And one of the guys that worked for me, he was a roofer, and he had zero cares. He'd been doing roofs his whole life. And he's like, all right, man, I'll ride with you, bro. I'll go first. And I'm like, all right, man. And so he just goes and he hops on that wall, you know, right by our edge right there with a 150-foot drop off. He hops on that concrete cinder block wall, boom, goes up from the block to the wrecker, stands up on the wrecker, opens the door of the truck, gets the truck door open, and he's like, all right, man, your turn. I'm like, all right, no problem. And I go and I grab the wrecker right here, and I go to stand up on that block wall, and never in my life, ever, has my body frozen up. And my brain kept telling myself, do this right now. And there was no response. I just froze. And I couldn't move. I was almost like locked. That's the only time it's ever happened in my life. I do not like, I jump off cliffs into water and stuff, but heights, I'm not a heights guy. I don't like heights very much. I try to take precautions, and they just make me very nervous. And I was not prepared, and I was not prepared for my body to just lock up like that. And so I'm just sitting there going, he's like, what's wrong with you, bro? And I'm like, I can't move. I don't know what to do. And so somebody else had to go up in there because I could not do it. And I felt terrible. It was really bad. It was a bad ordeal. And so we finally all get up there, and, you know, we cross our fingers and take it back to the wrecker yard. And we get to the wrecker yard, and I was like, well, can I work on it here? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, thanks a lot, guys. Where can I work on it? And they're like, we don't care, just not here. And I'm like, what about that area underneath the overpass right outside of your business here? And they're like, sure, we don't care. That's kind of a public area. It's a little bit rough, but sure, go ahead. And I'm like, I guess this is it. We have no option. So, it wasn't the best neighborhood. It was pretty rough neighborhood we were chilling in, and we just, this was, once again, a long time ago, so I had to find a taxi cab, and then I had to go buy all the parts, and right there, we replaced all the lug posts, and busted out lug posts, put new lug posts in, and went on down the road. We didn't take any weight out at all. We just put new lug posts in, and drove a little bit more careful, but we made it, and it was an adventure for sure. And it's just another one of the dumb things I've done in my life. Just stupid and determined, and I don't know, wild. And I'm lucky to be here. I'm glad I'm here, but I've just done a lot of stupid stuff. But that was definitely one of the wilder adventures I've done, and it was a pretty good time. You know, besides all that happening, but like seeing New York, I think it was worth it to go down there with my buddies and show them New York City and stuff. I mean, it was kind of sketchy and a little bit exhilarating, but we made it. It's just now a funny story I can tell. So I appreciate everybody keeping up. I'm going to be telling stories like this once a week over a whole year. So I appreciate you all. Thanks.